The impact of the coronavirus across our community is the continuing focus of our Insider Public Affairs program. Hello and welcome to The Insider. I'm Lisa Adams. Thank you for joining us on TV as well as on the radio. COVID-19 continues to be the focus of our program, and today it's all about Erie-based Fortune 500 company Erie Insurance, how it's responded to COVID-19 and what the virus has meant for the company's vision for itself and for our community. And it is a privilege to have as my guest Erie Insurance CEO Tim Nicastro. Welcome, Tim.
Hey, good morning, Lisa. It's good to be here. Thank you.
So we'll start off with, I guess, what the most recent news was, another notch on the Fortune 500 list. That must be gratifying for you.
It is. I mean, we don't set out to be the largest company in the United States or the world, but it's certainly the fact that we're growing is a good sign, and it means that our brand is still strong. So we take it for what it's worth. It's a good sign.
Erie Insurance was the first major employer that I remember decided to move people to work from the office to home as soon as this whole pandemic situation exploded. What did you know about risk and the risks of COVID-19 at that time that maybe others didn't?
You know, Lisa, we have been monitoring it. We have a group inside of our company, the Incidents Management Team, IMT, and they've been monitoring the situation from early February. Of course, it was making worldwide news previous to that in China, but no one really understood the spread of it. And, you know, risk is our business, and so we monitor a lot of different things. Even if we're taking trips out of the country, this incidents management team does research on where we're going and make sure that we're able to maintain our safety. So the information we gathered told us that we wanted to be ahead of the curve and start to get our folks to work remote. Thankfully, through the efforts of our technology folks and the incidents team, we were well prepared to do so. In fact, mobilized our workforce to work remotely. We'd taken the numbers from 35% of our employees who work remotely routinely to 95% of our employees in a 5 business day period. It was pretty remarkable.
Wow, amazing. So what do you think you've gained and lost in working remotely? Many companies are now talking about continuing to work from home, perhaps even beyond the vaccine and at the end of the pandemic.
Yeah, I would say, you know, the number one gain is we had somewhat of a surge. I think that people had an adrenaline rush. It was new. They were adapting to it. And we actually saw increases in productivity early on across the entire company. The other upsides of it are that we've looked for opportunities to work differently in the future. So when we do return to our workplaces, we can see how remote work can fit into our work patterns and can help us when we do need bursts of productivity. We also gained in terms of understanding how our technology functioned, where we had some things that we needed to shore up. And we validated the fact that our system security is really as ironclad as it could be. We felt very confident that we had appropriate cybersecurity, and we have yet to have an incident where some other organizations have been vulnerable to that as they work remotely.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because when people are at home, that does open up a lot of vulnerabilities, or can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our network people have networked the systems from people's homes in, so they aren't using their personal equipment or their personal connections. They're using secure company connections across the organization. Now, you asked on the downside, what have we lost? Our company is like all insurance companies, but we pride ourselves on being the best of them. We're a relationship company. And while this works, us talking in 2 dimensions, us talking virtually, we're communicating. It's certainly a step above a telephone. And in the beginning, the novelty was kind of cool. It was like, hey, look, we can see everybody on the screen. But our cultural fabric really depends on human relationships. And when you do this type of a thing, as you and I are meeting right now, we'll hang up on this call, and there won't be any post-call discussion or post-meeting discussion as we leave a conference room or we head to our cars. And those types of discussions really form the fabric of our human relationships. And that part is missing right now. And so we're anxious to get that restored. And we'll talk more throughout the program here. But our bias remains to bring our people back to our facilities when it's safe to do so.
Well, clearly you've made a really big investment in working together with that beautiful new building. Construction did have to halt for a time because of COVID-19.
It did. We stopped construction early in March when the governor's orders came through. There was a possibility we could have justified the program as essential, but again, we wanted to err on the side of being abundantly cautious. It's a beautiful building, and it's going to house 1,300 employees. And work did resume early in May, as soon as the release orders came through. Our contractor, general contractor, PJ Dick out of Pittsburgh, has an entire safety protocol that really exceeds the government standards in terms of how they've returned their crews to work and how our crews have returned to work. And so we are making progress to complete the building now.
Well, as you said, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but last question, this section. How big is the task of advising your business insurance clients and helping them navigate the impact of shutdown mode and mitigating the risks as they reopen? I mean, we hear different things every day about what's safe and what isn't safe, from, you know, elevators to how people sit in the workplace to ventilation systems, customer interaction. You know, can a shower curtain between restaurant booths make a difference if you're sitting in a small room with a bunch of other people for a couple of hours?
Yeah. What we've done is there's really an abundance of guidance, and particularly from regulatory agencies, advising businesses on how to safely operate. And so what we did during the work from home order was we continued to provide advice to our agents that they could provide to our end policyholders, just some precautionary things to do as they shut down their businesses. But the reopening and the protocols, we really want to leverage the resources that are out there, particularly from the government and the CDC, to take that advice, because it's not really our entire area of expertise. We certainly have gained a lot of expertise along the way, but we want to rely on the people who are taking responsibility for that, and as I said, predominantly from the government agencies.
Well, when we come back, Erie Insurance has announced policy discounts and dividends to customers because of the lack of claims during the shutdown. We'll look at that decision really across the industry when we come back. Stay with us. I'm Lisa Adams. Welcome back to The Insider. My guest today is Erie Insurance CEO Tim Nicastro. We're talking about how Erie Insurance has been navigating COVID-19. Erie Insurance, along with a lot of other companies in the insurance industry, initiated rate reductions, then customer dividends, because of how COVID-19 really changed people's driving habits and accidents as a result there, at least for a few weeks. So what went into those decisions? Were you ahead or behind the curve there? First the rate reduction and now the dividend.
Yeah, Lisa, the industry is nothing if it's not a data collector, and so certainly the decisions are being made based on the data we're observing. We know that miles driven are down significantly, and that is one of the biggest driving forces for people having crashes and claims with their automobiles. We also have seen that has been sustained. We were concerned that maybe that would start out that way and it would spike back up. But based on what we were observing in the data and what we were observing across the industry, not just in our own footprint, we certainly could justify a return of some of the premium to our policyholders. And so our first response was to reduce our rates, because we felt that this would be sustained, that this miles driven trend would persist for some period of time. And the way to provide that more enduring relief is to give somebody a rate reduction. We really, as soon as we announced that, we also recognized that many in the industry were providing more immediate relief in the form of premium refunds or dividends or those types of things. And so we wanted to go above and beyond, and that's what we did. We were among the first companies to offer two separate givebacks to our policyholders, and we're proud of that. The response from our policyholder group and our agency force has been very strong.
So are you spreading the savings around, or are you taking a hit because of this? And then these dividend payouts, are customers seeing those yet? Because I know that requires government approval, and I haven't received mine.
Yes, the checks, Lisa, the check is in the mail. They are all being mailed between last week and this week. And so the dividend check should be out. Would be surprised if you don't have yours by the end of the week. But the rate reductions will take place over the next several months. Those are the ones that require a greater amount of regulatory oversight and regulatory approval. Many of them have been approved, and the work behind the scenes is going on. So the next time people get a policy renewal, they'll see the reduction in their bill. And if this trend continues, we'll have to evaluate whether there are additional measures we would need to take to be fair to our policyholders.
So ultimately you said, because Erie Insurance did this a couple of times in a couple of different ways to a big dollar amount. Talk a little bit about that. And I found a graphic on your website that had a comparison to how Erie Insurance is handling this versus other companies within the industry.
Sure. We are filing for 5% rate reductions, which means compared to our automobile book of business, our personal and commercial automobile business will amount to about a $200 million reduction in rates that our policyholders will enjoy over the next 12 months. The dividend also amounts to $200 million. So in total, policyholders have gotten $400 million in relief, some very immediate and some that they'll enjoy over a longer period of time. So when we compare ourselves to the industry, many have done very similar things, kind of that short-term and long-term combination. Some continue to do more immediate relief and multiple measures. But we're seeing the numbers of carriers now, even this week, 2 more carriers announced a second measure of relief. American Family and Allstate both offered their second dose of relief to their policyholders. And the carriers like us and them really are putting pressure on the rest of the players in the industry to follow suit. But it's the right thing to do. Our policyholders are not driving as often. The rate should reflect the risk, and clearly the risk is reduced because of the amount of miles driven being so low.
Well, many people are losing their jobs, or at least their jobs are on hold because of all of the forces at work here, something we've really never seen in my lifetime. Has Erie Insurance had to furlough any employees or cut any jobs?
Now, Lisa, we are very fortunate. Being in the risk business, we have a significant rainy day fund. And no pun intended, it is really there. It was built up to accommodate losses that occur because of weather-related events, predominantly the hurricanes and the big hailstorms and tornadoes. But thankfully, those reserves are also available for times like these. And in the remote world, the vast majority of our employees have remained productive. Our business is open. Our business itself is performing pretty well right now, certainly considering the situation. So, to be honest, we have never discussed furlough or layoff. We've never had one in the company's history. And it's something where we feel like we're holding our own. We're very financially stable. I've had employees comment to me in emails and text messages and things like that of how thankful they are that the company has such a stable position. So many stories of people being laid off, and our employees, some of them even feel guilty that they aren't really suffering some of the same consequences as so many people are.
Well, I know Erie Insurance has contributed to a COVID-19 rapid response fund, also to the charitable initiatives of your agents as well. And we'll talk about how you're helping in that way when we come back. Welcome back to The Insider. Again, my guest is Erie Insurance CEO Tim Nicastro, and it's all about how Erie Insurance has been navigating the COVID-19 pandemic, these very interesting times that we are in. You've been investing, I know, in so many ways in Erie, in the community in recent years. I mean, I hear it over and over, what would we do without Erie Insurance? So certainly many in the community, many organizations have appreciated the generosity of having a big company like yours based here. But it wasn't a surprise then that you stepped up quickly and joined this Erie Community Foundation and others in this COVID-19 Rapid Response Fund. So how important is this? Because how long might our community really feel the fallout of this pandemic?
But the duration of this event is what is the most, I think, confounding thing for most people. Certainly, with our financial wherewithal and our love of this community, we're going to do what we need to do to help the community stabilize. Certainly, as we come out of this, and that rapid relief fund was an idea that Mike Batchelor from the Community Foundation thought of, kind of to mimic the Erie Gives Day, but let's accelerate it in light of the circumstances. So we're very proud to be part of that, and certainly we continue to work with the Erie Community Foundation on other avenues of support for the community, as well as the United Way, in particular with their community schools program.
You also launched the Erie Agents Giving Back initiative, funded that generously with $2.5 million. Explain the idea behind this, because some of your agents were already doing great things, right?
Yeah, it's kind of not a funny story, but it's an interesting story. One of our local agents, and I hate to single anybody out because there will be 2,199 that I don't speak of today, but Pete Zaffris, locally from Great Lakes Insurance, started a program working with some of his food customers, his clients who were in the restaurant business, Teresa's Deli and the Cork, and I think there were a couple of others as well. But to provide meals to first responders, to healthcare professionals, and others in the community who really putting themselves on the front line. And then Pete is a very competitive guy, and he started to call out other agents, get them engaged, and see if they would do it, not only in this market, but in other markets. And before we knew it, we had about 20 agents that were out there in social media kind of competing with one another to demonstrate how they're giving back to their communities. It caused us to think, maybe, how can we get into the act? And we decided to fuel our agents with some cash to help them in their local markets. And so we committed $2.2 million, roughly $1,000 per agency for our agents to use in their local markets. And in addition to that, we will match 50 cents on the dollar for everything that they do above that in support of their communities. We also funded our field offices who already have funding on a routine basis, but we increased their funding by $300,000 so that they could help the relief efforts in their local communities. Erie Insurance really focuses on all of our different constituents, and our communities are a really important part of that. So helping our agents help their communities is absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah, and that's nice because it lets the agents maybe see where the need is that's close to them. And I think we were the beneficiary of some of those meals from the Cork here at the TV station. I mean, we provide information, but we certainly don't think we're on the front line, so to say. But that was such a nice initiative. I know that health workers were supported in that fashion too. So, well, we're going to come back and talk about when you may be able to move into that big building. What's the impact of COVID-19 on the EDDC initiatives, also to bring new life to downtown Erie. Plenty to still talk about. We hope you'll stay with us. We've been talking about life for Erie Insurance and its employees and its customers through the COVID-19 pandemic with CEO Tim Nicastro. So it is time, I think it's past time, that big, beautiful new building should be open and your workers inside of there. So how difficult was it to suspend the move-in, and is there a timetable for moving employees in? I mean, are you going to wait for a vaccine or look at 2021?
Yeah, so Lisa, we as you know, we suspended the construction operations there in early March. The building was scheduled to be open and a ribbon cutting to occur on our 95th anniversary, which was April 20th of this year. We knew that wouldn't be a safe thing to do, nor was the building completely ready at that point. But the crews did return to the job site earlier this month, early in May. And we still anticipate having the building completed and ready to occupy before the end of this year. We have been operating under an abundance of caution and also trying to make sure we're compliant with the stay-at-home order of the governor. And even though our business is essential, we can conduct our business remotely for the most part. And so while we are anxious to put our employees into this new building and they're anxious to get into it, we're going to do so very deliberately. And we really only anticipate returning a small number of employees to our facilities over the next couple of months. as we all get used to this more distant working environment.
So you want to kind of test that out with smaller, more spread out groups, I'm assuming. But what about the workspaces? Are they 6 feet or more apart? And will building designs be changed forever because of COVID-19?
Yeah, thus far we've not really changed the design within the building in terms of the workspace. There are opportunities in the building for appropriate social distancing and health distancing. And so we, rather than revamp the entire inside of the building, what we're going to do is return people to work in a way that can be done very safely for them, to give them ample distance. And that may mean that for a period of time we have kind of a hybrid model with some of our people working remotely, who will ultimately come back to our facilities, just so we can space it out and, as I said, keep everybody safe.
So will you wait for the green phase to do that, or will it depend on when the building is done and just your own decisions about timing?
It's really, you probably have heard this as many times as I have. It's a very fluid situation, and so we're monitoring what's happening in terms of the effective screening, and then of course the ultimate is if a vaccine is developed, and that would be a game changer for everybody. But in the meantime, we don't want to make a significant negative impact on the culture of our organization. I mentioned earlier how important relationships are for us, and that in-person relationship is extremely important. But we don't want to risk the health and well-being of our employees. That's going to be our top priority. So I wish I could be more definitive, and I know that our employees wish I could be more definitive. But as we're watching the situation and as circumstances evolve, we're certainly going to be communicating with everybody what our plans are. It's particularly difficult because we realize having 2,600 employees in downtown on any given day, and maybe a couple of hundred or so contractors, that's a lot of impact on the economy.
Yep.
And we know that we're going to be a big part of the restart when that begins. And we're anxious to play our role there.
All right, I haven't left you much time at all to answer this next question, but I know EDDC really started with you. So how has work on those initiatives continued behind the scenes? Has that been a setback? I know there was talk of announcing another building purchase soon.
Yeah, so Lisa, we have made EDDC, while this pandemic has been underway, has secured more properties, has been working on firming up the financing and signing up tenants for the properties. And I would say that we have certainly not lost enthusiasm or support for the project. If anything, I think it has redoubled our efforts. We're really anxious to hit the ground running and to show everybody that Erie's momentum that we had going into COVID is going to be every bit as strong coming out of it.
Well, we certainly appreciate you being with us, so we will certainly stand by also to watch the example of Erie Insurance when it decides to move into that building.
Thank you, Lisa.
And as always, thank you for being with us here on The Insider. If you have an idea you'd like us to explore, just email me at ladams@wicu12.com and join us again next time for The Insider.